This week, Microsoft and Sony launched their big next-gen consoles in the Xbox Series and PS5. Now that the reviews are up on the site, I wanted to invite my editor, Alex Cranz, to talk about the next-gen consoles and really battle out to figure out which one's better, PS5 or Xbox.
It's the Xbox.
It's just not, but we'll get into that. I think the most divisive thing about these systems doesn't even really have to do anything with how they play, but we got to talk about their designs.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's the PlayStation 5, which really went for it. The Series X is very, very boring, but I kind of like it because, like, whatever. But what I do like is the Series S, which is the smaller, way wimpier one, because It's actually, like, got a cool design. It looks neat.
It's very small. It's cute. It's got that, like, kind of two-tone thing going on, similar to the PlayStation, but it's, like, no one's really, like, objecting to it in the way that they are the PS5.
Right, because I can stack the Xbox Series S on top of other things, and you can't do that with the PS5. It's just so swoopy and big. But what I thought was really interesting is you actually like the PlayStation 5.
Yeah, I kind of like it. It's futuristic. I think more than half of like the Gizmodo tech crew just absolutely hates it. But I think in a way, Sony kind of won because people are talking about it, and like, so regardless of whether you like it or you hate it, it's like, it's iconic. You see that thing, he's like, oh, that's the PlayStation.
But I don't think that's enough to win, because I think the Series S does a lot of that same stuff, but with a much more pleasant, much more comforting design.
Sure, it's less obnoxious, it's less in your face.
Yeah.
All right, so next up is performance. Kind of give me the rundown of what the Xbox X and the S are working with.
So the GPU in the Xbox Series X is actually way, way, way more powerful than the GPU in the Series S. And you really see that because one is intended to do 4K play, one's intended to do 1440p. But there's also other stuff, like the Series X has 16 gigabytes of RAM and the Series S only has 10. And it's only got a 512 gigabyte solid state drive, which is just not enough. It felt wimpy. I kind of think of it, I was showing both consoles to my brother and explaining them to him a couple of days ago, and he looked really, really sad when he looked at the Series S, and he's like, oh, that's for little kids. He was just like, that's the one that, like, parents who kind of know they need to get an Xbox for their kid and they're not really paying attention, that's the one they get.
It's almost like the parent who buys their kids Mega Bloks instead of Legos.
Yeah, 100%. It's just like, oh, really?
So in some ways, Sony's actually taking a much more straightforward approach, because there's the standard PS5 at $500, and then there's the PS5 Digital Edition at $400. They're the exact same console, except that the Digital Edition doesn't have Ultra HD Blu-ray disc drive. That's it. Although there is one kind of small shortcoming PS5 has in comparison to the Series X, is that the Series X has a full terabyte SSD, and you get about a little bit more than 800 gigs of usable space, whereas the PS5 gets 885 gig SSD, but only 667 gigs is usable. When games now, like, there's a lot of games that are like 90 gigs, 100 gigs, suddenly that storage space just evaporates. It is nice that Sony does give you an option to expand the PS5 storage. They're going to put out a list of approved M.2 SSDs that work with the PlayStation 5, but they haven't gotten around to doing that yet.
Whereas on the Xbox Series X, I can just go get a stupid little card and shove it in the back after spending, I think, $200, and I'm good to go.
And how much are you getting for $200?
I mean, maybe only a terabyte.
The next thing I want to talk about quickly is controllers, because Sony's kind of doing something interesting with theirs, but it feels like Microsoft kind of played it safe with the Xbox Series controllers.
Microsoft played it super safe. I think this was the most annoying thing coming into this conversation with you about, is I was like, I know I got them beat on like speed and storage and stuff. I know I got them to beat on design, but like when it comes to controllers, the Xbox Series X and the Series S is just boring. It's just, if you've used an Xbox One X controller for your PC or for your Xbox, you've used the controller. The only difference is there's a little share button in the middle, which is really helpful. That's it. And it boggles my mind because Xbox has a really, really good controller. They made that Elite controller with all that customization, and then they're like, okay, yeah, you spent $500. Here's just, I got a share button for you. Your controller sounds awesome.
The big changes are on the inside because the DualSense controller, it's not even the DualShock anymore, it's the DualSense controller. It has advanced haptics and adaptive triggers. So first I gotta say, Astro's Playroom, which comes with the PS5, is like the best tech demo. If you get a PS5, just play through Astro's Playroom. It kind of really introduces you to the power of the DualSense. And so like, you know, you'll have situations where like you'll be pulling back on a bow, and the trigger gets tighter the further you pull back. And it's the same thing for like even like little things where like in Miles Morales, like, you know, if you're riding the subway, you can feel the tracks, like the train car bounce over tracks through the controller. And it's like really little subtle changes, and it's really, really nice.
Every time you talk about it, I get a little jealous. Not jealous enough to like go over to your house and steal it, but a little jealous.
The real big question is, should you upgrade?
Ooh. That's rough. I think if you have an Xbox One X and you didn't already order your Series X, you're fine. If you're on an older Xbox, if you're just on a PlayStation and you want to move into this, if you don't have any 4K consoles already, get it. I think now it's great. I think it's going to be a lot more like future-proof than the Series S. I think the Series S is going to be done in 2 to 3 years, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Xbox announce a new console in 3 years.
So I'm kind of like of the same mind as like, you know, I don't think anyone should feel pressured into upgrading right now. You know, a lot of the new games, a lot of the new Sony games like Spider-Man Miles Morales, that's going to be available on PS5 and PS4. However, I still think like the PS5 has an early lead. You know, what was Xbox's big like, you know, headlining game? It was Halo Infinite. Oops, that got delayed until next year too.
I have Gears 5, which I never finished playing on the Xbox One X. So now I can play it, and it looks much prettier. Okay, so you have games that I don't have. I think if you really are passionate about Miles Morales, get the PS5. If you just want to experience what like next level 4K gaming is like, if you want that whole experience that you keep seeing us write about and Kotaku writing about and all those other sites that aren't as good as us, the Xbox Series X is the way to go. And then you get the Xbox Series S if you didn't watch any of this video.